Welcome to the Where Are We Going Now podcast, where you meet interesting and crazy people, hear their stories on how they navigated through their own life, to hopefully give you some insight on how you'd like to navigate your life. Hey guys, I'm your host, Anthony Amarello, and I'd like to take a second to talk to you about failure. I've failed in a ton of things. I've failed in relationships, in sports, in education. I've even failed friends. But you know who else has failed? Walt Disney failed. Walt Disney was fired from Kansas City Star in 1919 for quote-unquote not having enough imagination. Jerry Seinfeld was fired from the show Benson after he appeared in one episode. Abe Lincoln went to war as a captain and came back a private. Talk about failure. But all these people went on to do great things. And I think when it comes down to it, when someone tells you no, when someone tells you you have failed, or it doesn't have to be someone, it can be something has told you you failed, people get scared as if they've wasted all this time. They say life is short. I don't believe that. I think life is long, almost excruciatingly long. They made Roseanne twice. Why? They made Full House and Fuller House. Why? Are people that bored? Life is long is what I'm saying. You get chance after chance after chance. But what you need to know and what you need to do is have faith in yourself and actually put in the work. Because people that fail, whether they have worked hard or they haven't, are split into two choices. I can work harder and figure out what my niche is in this situation, or I could go work at Subway or UPS or in a cubicle, which is fine. If you work in those places and that's what you want to do, that is fine. That's great. I'm glad you found your niche. But for people that are striving for the stars, trying to burn like the sun, failure can really kick you in the teeth. But I think once you find who you are, like Walt Disney found his imagination and created a whole world, you could do that too in your respective field. Jerry Seinfeld got cut from Benson and then went on to have one of the best comedic sitcoms of all time. If you don't know what Abe Lincoln did, stop listening to the podcast and pick up a book. What I'm saying is failure isn't the end-all, be-all. It's not a definite you shouldn't be doing this. It's a you shouldn't be doing this right now. Whether you need to work harder or find a different angle, that's all subjective. But what it really comes down to is your state of mind. Can you get through this? Whether you are a single father with 4 kids, whether you're an aspiring yoga teacher or a musician or a comedian or an actress or a whatever, it doesn't matter. If you're willing enough to put yourself out there to find failure, you should be willing enough to put yourself out there until you find success. Because people get embarrassed, mostly by themselves. Mostly we create this embarrassment by ourselves. Oh, people are going to think this. Oh, people are going to think that. That's not necessarily true, and it could all be in your head. Nobody makes fun of yourself better than yourself. What you need to do is take that failure and put it back out into the world as success. Keep working hard and keep striving and keep moving forward, and something's going to work for you. It might not be what you always hoped and dreamed it would be, but it will be something that will get you a little bit closer, and you edge closer and closer until you are happy where you need to be. Guys, thanks for listening. This is episode 18, and we'll talk to you later. Welcome to the Where Are We Going Now podcast, episode 18. Today I'm here with Joe Scafidi.
Yep.
Scafidi. See, I've been practicing for the last 30 seconds. Joe is a musician from Chicago, Illinois. What?
Yep.
And I met Joe through a family, so we can just get right into the Steve thing.
Yeah.
My dad, one of his best friends' daughter, is Joe's girlfriend.
Yeah.
and his daughter and me went to high school around the same time, had a lot of the same friends, and grew up very similarly. So she went to school in Chicago, and that's where she met Joe, and then they moved to California, and I came out a year or 2 years, whatever, later, and we all kind of linked up, and Joe is like the nicest guy I've ever met in my whole entire life. It's a little unnerving. I feel like you could snap at any moment. But
no way.
We were so Joe, say hi to the people.
Well, hello.
Also, Joe brought us some great mango IPAs, Barrel House Brewing Company. I really appreciate that, Joe.
Thank you. I think it's a good way to break the ice.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I've only had interviewees come in with alcohol for themselves. No one's ever brought any for me. So this was, like I said, you're the nicest guy I ever met.
Well, I'm not saying they're selfish, but ... No, I'm joking.
But I just want to talk about Nina's dad for a second because he is the most eccentric man in the whole entire world. Yes. And we were just talking about a video he made putting away the snowblower for the last time after a winter in New England. And he's just that kind of guy where it's like a 4-minute video and he took 100 million shots.
Right.
Like it had to. He nailed it. The whole performance was brilliant.
I mean, he should win an Oscar for that. I mean,
the man has so much energy, and he's a very, very nice guy.
Yes.
Runs a shoe store in Worcester, Massachusetts. So that's how he is. And then my dad is like me, obviously, but in the sense of he's not eccentric. He'll tell you to shut the hell up. and so did you ever hear about the time they went on a road trip?
I don't believe so, no.
So they went on a road trip to, I think, Florida, or they went down south, and like minute 3, Steve wanted to stop everywhere,
right.
go to Mount Washington. See, my dad's like, can we just get to the sun? Like,
that sounds like Steve, because he could be driving and he'd be like, I'm going to text someone out. I'm like, oh, let me text him for you, actually. Like, why don't we stop here, Joe? Why don't we stop here? Do you want to drive? I'm like, just one thing at a time,
That's funny, man.
So I totally see that.
But, so let's talk about you for a while.
Okay, let's do that.
Joe, how old are you?
I'm 27.
You're 27, so
yes.
You're born in 90 or 80?
Yeah, 90.
90.
Yes.
So what was it like growing up in Chicago? Do you have siblings?
I do. I have one older brother, just like a year and a half older than me.
Are you guys close?
Oh, yeah, we talk all the time.
Is he also a musician?
No, he does normal things. Sorry.
What does normal things entail?
Just he's learning to be a lineman and having more like...
Oh, cool.
Yeah, more of a steady career, than what we do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you grew up in Chicago. You're not a big sports fan, right?
No, I mean, I love going to, when I was in Chicago, going to the Bulls games. I used to love to go in there, and the Blackhawks. But everything else, like, I don't care. Like, I don't care about football so much. I don't care about... Especially baseball. Like,
really,
I don't.
Even after, like, but that's how you know you're a real person. You're not a fake because they won the World Series,
exactly.
And you're not like the Cubbies.
Well, my family's not Cubbies. We're White Sox fans.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now I kind of don't like you as much.
No, but I don't have any animosity towards the Cubs at all. I don't,
Yeah, why would you?
I mean, like I said, I don't even care about the Sox, honestly. I just have that family attachment to it.
So if you weren't that into sports growing up, what did you do as a kid?
I actually did do sports, but I didn't enjoy it.
What did you play?
I remember the first thing I did was hockey when I was really young, and then I was just terrible. I mean, like I have pigeon toes, they kind of go in, so I kind of like had a little trouble with that. But it was fine. Like I could skate still, but not proficient like major athletes or anything like that. But I did that for like a year, and then I did baseball, which is probably why I don't like baseball.
Yeah. They stuck you in the outfield to pick the daisies.
Yep. I would I would not pay attention. I'd just be like, looking out in the stands and being like, "What's over there?" You know, and Dad's like, "Oh no."
See, because I was the fat kid as a child, they always put me behind the plate, so I was where the action was. So that's why I love baseball.
Yeah.
So I understand what's going on. But if I
Yeah.
was put in center field, which they would have never have put me at, I would I'd probably hate baseball.
Yeah, they just kind of put me wherever they needed me.
Well, the thing is, Little League outfielders, like outfielders in general, are supposed to be athletic, strong arms.
Right.
But in Little League, you don't need, like, nobody's hitting it out there. So
No one is,
that's funny, man.
Yep.
But it says you got into music pretty young.
Yes. I was really, it was the only thing that, like, kind of calmed me down, you know? I always had, like, a racing mind, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a long time. And it was always, like, right in front of me, you know?
Yeah, right.
I was really blessed having, like, an uncle that kind of introduced me into guitar at an early age. He married into my family, my mom's side, and he's a professional guitarist. And he kind of showed me, like, hey, this is cool. Like, he would, like, bring out the guitar. He's like, Joe, you should just, like, try it. Like, it'll be fun. He wouldn't even charge me. He just wanted me to learn so bad. Like, he wanted to teach me. Yeah, and
a whole family of nice guys.
I know, right? His name is David Berger. He's in Chicago, and he's just an amazing guitar player, and he plays around everywhere. So he was incredible, and just kind of got me the bug, I guess, at an early age.
And what was and how old were you at this point?
I had to be 12 or 13, I think.
What kind of music were you most interested in?
At that time, I was really interested in the 70s, like Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, you know, that stuff. But before that, my dad always played, like, classic R&B stuff, which is definitely where I get the singing.
R&B?
Yes.
Nice.
Classic R&B, like Jackie Wilson, who else? I mean, just a bunch, like Just My Imagination, stuff like that kind of song.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Just like he'd just put it up on the speakers and we'd dance. He'd, like, pick us up as a baby, just dance around, and it was amazing.
So what musicians are the difference between musicians and comics, in my opinion, is you could write a song and be attached to it forever, you know, whether people like it or not. You know, that's, like, it's real. I feel like it's more emotional for musicians.
Right.
Whereas comedians, if I write a joke and it's not working within the first, 4 days, 4 hours even, it's out of my mind.
Sure.
So, like, what is there, like, a special connection? I know it reminds you of your dad, but, like, what's the connection with it now that it's brought you until you're 27? You know, that's, I 14 years now.
I guess it was, you know what, I think we're very similar in that. I think when you're an artist like what we are, I think there's just no other choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like there's just no other choice. What I'm destined to do was this. I always just felt like I was a musician, just made the most, if I pictured my life, that was the most realistic option. Not going through school and, like, being a doctor or something, which is easier and harder, and easier in the sense that there's a path,
right,
versus what we do, but it's harder, and you got to go through a lot of school and all that. But there's just literally no choice in my mind. It was like, that's what it is. I just accepted it.
So, what did you do in school then?
As a kid, it was just like, I didn't know. I had no, like, direction. I just knew, like, I liked playing the guitar, like, at a young age, and I would sing, like, on our road trips up to Wisconsin in the car. My dad would always play music, and I'd just, like, start singing to whatever was going on.
Road trips to Wisconsin? Yes. Sounds like a series of horror stories. Road trips to Wisconsin. That's funny.
Yeah.
So while you were in school, were you liked in school? Yeah,
I would say so. I was liked. I I guess I didn't care so much if I was or wasn't, but I feel like
Which
I
is
was.
why you're the coolest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, no. But I don't know. I always had like really nice friends, and I always surround myself with really positive people and like good people, or funny people.
Yeah,
And just being, having it. And if someone was like negative or like cramping my style for a bit, I just find a new group of friends or whatever. I guess it didn't concern me so much,
Weren't worried about being liked.
I wasn't like, it wasn't like, oh, it's not like one of those like TV series where the kid's like, I'm gonna be liked by everyone. It wasn't like that ever, but like, I don't know, I had fun. I had a nice group of friends growing up, so that was cool.
Now, were your friends also musicians?
Some of them were. Some of them weren't. I think when I started going to high school, I definitely surrounded myself with like mostly musicians,
In high school, you joined in a cappella group?
Yes. High school and in college.
So that's when you started singing because before then you were just playing guitar, yeah?
Right. Before that, I was playing guitar, and I was like very hard stuck on like I'm a guitarist,
Yeah.
And now it's like an afterthought,
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
play guitar too, but I'm a singer, vocalist.
So what made you join the a cappella group? Where you're like, those guys have...
Part of it was, because I would sing and play guitar a lot. I just naturally did that.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and dad, mostly my dad, he was like, Joe, you should sing. You should sign up for singing like in the chorus or something. I was like, no way. Like I'm not gonna do that. He's like, come on, just do it. Just try it. You'll like it. And I was like, all right. And I did it. And I ended up like liking it a lot.
Did your dad sing? Your dad seems like he's very musical.
He does sing. But if you were to ask him to sing, he'd be like, "No, I don't sing." But he has a very like classic Italian
Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin. He loves Dean Martin a lot.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
I know, right? I mean, he was fun. He was funny too, right?
Yeah,
he was a great singer, but he was also like he didn't take himself seriously.
He was a double threat.
Right. So he has that very like I think he has a really nice sound to his voice. Like especially if you were to like try and like do it, but
And what about your mom? Is she a singer?
She's an artist.
Oh.
But she does sing a little. But I definitely get the artistic side of all this from my mom. I would definitely credit my mom on that.
What kind of artist is she?
She sculpts. She paints mostly. Watercolor, does print work. She does everything.
Oh,
She's
wow.
even made like jewelry before. Like she does a lot. Yeah, she does a lot of crazy things. I have some artwork I could show you at my place one time of hers. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And my mom's side of the family are all artists, and they all do different things. Like some of them are filmmakers, some of them they make puppets. One of them makes puppets, So it's really cool.
Puppet cousin seems like the most interesting cousin.
It's my aunt, actually.
Oh,
yeah.
Puppet aunt.
Yeah.
That's
some really cool puppets. So
that's very funny.
It is funny. Yeah.
So you're in high school. So what? So like you show up your first day of a cappella, and did you think you could sing at that point? Were you just not doing it, or did you?
I thought maybe I could like. I felt like I could hack it, if that makes sense. Like I felt like I could like at least get decent, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So then I remember my teacher there. His name was Mr. Esberg. He sadly passed away like a couple of years ago. I got to say goodbye to him. He had cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he was definitely like the catalyst in all this, like of me singing at least, because he definitely like pushed me the most because how they do it when you're a freshman is like not a lot of people start singing until like they're a little older. Not like super young. I mean, you can, but especially when you're a man, you go through like a vocal change, like your voice cracks and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So like 13, 14... or 14, 15 is like a good age to start singing as a guy at least, because then you're like, all right, I'm starting to get my adult voice now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You're hitting puberty.
Hopefully.
So it's like, hopefully, right? So yeah, he would take each guy and like he didn't make them sing privately.
Was it an all-male a cappella group?
Yeah.
Is that, are all a cappella groups
No,
all-male?
no,
Oh,
no.
okay, but this one was.
The first, it was called like men's chorus. It was like the first chorus. Yeah. I've been in more like quote unquote elite groups that have like it's like a small group of people, but it's like boys and girls,
Oh. The
think
best
of like
of the best.
right. No. It's kind of like the pentatonics. You ever heard of the pentatonics? Yeah, it's like small groups, and it's really cool. But at this time, when you're first starting, it's like they want guys to be more comfortable. So it's like, and like at that age, a lot of guys who haven't hit puberty, they'll be like 10 or 1, really like, and they're singing like soprano, like what a female soprano would. So, and it was funny because at that time I was placed just because I thought maybe it was my hubris, but I was like, I'm a baritone, like a lower bass. No way, not especially if you hear me talking right now. I have a very like high voice, and my singing is very high too. So, and he was like, no, like he took me in a thing. He's like, no, you're not. No, you're a tenor. You're a tenor.
Get that out of your head right now.
And I'm grateful for it actually. So I like that I could do that.
So you're going through high school. You're in a cappella, and you're doing a lot of shows. How many shows did you guys do?
We did a bunch of shows, yeah. And
at any point, did you decide that you wanted to join a band and practice in your parents' garage really poorly?
Well, yeah. That was, I joined some groups later in high school. And what got me into all that was Mr. Esberg. He had this goes into musical theater, which I did for a few years, which got me into like performing, I guess. So he tricked me one day, and he's like, Joe, you should audition for this musical and stuff.
Usually when someone says their teacher tricked them, it ends up in the news.
No, it was like so harmless with this, because he was such a sweet man, but he's just like always wanted me to do more and more and more, because he just heard something in me, I should say. And he just took me out of my homeroom. He was like, Joe, just sing like a couple lines of this for me. Just like no one's here. I was like, all right. And I did it. And then I just look like on the whiteboard. And when I go back in the men's chorus, he was like, Joe's like the lead in this music. I was like, no way. I was like, God, I couldn't believe it. I was like laughing, but I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. And then I ended up doing it and getting the bug. And and then that propelled me into doing more of my solo thing. Because that musical was it was called Working. It was more like a rock opera. It wasn't like dancing and show tuney. It was very like rock opera and kind of like Jesus Christ Superstar-ish.
And you didn't get the bug for acting, though?
Yeah, not so much. Because it was more of a rock opera, it was more of me singing. I had like a little monologue, but it was like an afterthought. So it was more of like me singing in front of people, and that's what got me into like, oh, I like this part of it for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, I had some little groups, and one of the big things I did was it was like a Red Cross, for like AIDS and stuff.
Like a benefit
show? An AIDS benefit show. And I did that. I had a little group, and we did, I sang a train song, I remember. And it was just very rewarding. I was like, that's what I have to do. Like, that's just what it is,
It's weird, I think, and I've noticed you've done it a couple times now. When you go to describe the feeling it makes you feel, it's very, very hard to put it into words.
Right.
It's very hard to other than excitement and joy and release of endorphins.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's very hard to put it in words. So at the end, that Red Cross benefit was towards the end of high school?
Yes.
So you have this feeling that you can't even put into words,
right.
And now you have to make a decision on where or even if you want to go to college.
Right.
So how did you kind of go through that decision?
So, exactly. Well, I remember I kind of want to stay close to home and work at my dad's restaurant for a little bit to figure things out.
Shout out your dad's restaurant.
The Greek Islands in Chicago.
Literally every person I've ever talked to from Chicago, I'm like, have you heard of the Greek Islands? They're like, yes. It's like people's date destination out there. That's if you're in Chicago, go check out the Greek Islands if you haven't.
I will say one of the biggest benefits was when I did meet Nina, my girlfriend. I took her there for the first date, right? And they were just schmoozing me the whole time. Like, we sat down, they pulled the chair out for her, And then they lowered the lights a little. Oh, yeah, she'll never forget that.
Did she know it was your dad's restaurant?
Yeah, I told her.
Oh, you should have just let it slide. You should have been like, I got it like that.
Yeah,
like, I'm known in this city.
I'm a big cheese in this town. I don't know. No.
That's, so you're working at the restaurant?
Yes, I'm working at the restaurant. I'm going to school. And doing my music thing.
What were you doing? Were you a busboy in the restaurant? Like, what did you do in the restaurant?
At first, I was like a host kind of a thing, kind of sat people around, and then like sort of a manager at some point, kind of like making schedules and all that. But it was a lot of fun. I loved it. Just my dad has a Greek restaurant. I'm Sicilian,
which is almost blasphemy for an Italian to own a Greek restaurant. But whatever.
His partners, are all Greek, and so he's a businessman and passionate about food. And it was just great. It was amazing. It's been a blessing.
Now, did anybody ever? Because like when you talk to people that work in restaurants, like did anybody ever blow up on you? Or were you just the nicest guy in the world and no one's ever blown up on you?
No one's ever blown up on no one's ever blown up on me. I don't know. People, they compare myself to my dad a lot there. They love, like, anytime my dad and I go into the restaurant, and they, like, start, like, kissing our cheeks and, like, giving us hugs. Like, they loved us, like, because we're the same. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree,
Now, at any point in time, did you think that you were just going to, work at this restaurant, take over this restaurant?
It might have been like a thought for like maybe a second,
A second?
Yeah. And then I remember my dad, towards the end of me working there, he was like, Joe, do you want to take over? Do you want to work at the restaurant? Do you want to be in the restaurant business? Or do you want to be a musician? And he always says this, and not even a second later I answered like, no, I want to be a musician,
Yeah,
He's like, all right, you got to go to LA now. And that was it.
Your dad kicked you out.
Yeah, he was like, you have to go to LA. That's it. Like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it, right? And I was like, yeah.
Okay, let's backtrack one step, and then let's get back into that. So like, I worked for my father for a long time. Sure. Yeah. And a lot of that time, I just thought I was going to work there forever and eventually, take it over. And it's almost like... It's like when you say no one blew up at you, it's because you're on your best behavior. Right. Where you're for your family. Like some people that work at restaurants do terrible, terrible things. Right. But if your father owns the restaurant, you can't really do that. Did you ever come across like coworkers treating you differently?
Only in the sense that it's like I can't even deny this part. Is I had a huge advantage because I was the boss's son. It was inevitable. Like they were going to be like, truly super respectful of me at all times.
Did it bother you at all? No one ever told you to go fuck yourself?
No. Well, like you said, I'm the nicest guy, so like it wasn't going to happen anyways. No, but no. It's just I don't know. I guess I did. I don't know. I just always felt blessed for that. But I guess, it would be interesting to know what it would be like to be just like someone who, I guess, quote unquote, didn't care. But
yeah, right.
Because when you do work, like, as working for your family, you care a lot, actually.
Yeah, you do care.
You care a lot.
Almost too much. Do you hear that, Dad? I cared too much.
That's right. No, and I felt the same way. I'd come home and be like, I just didn't want to be blamed, like I didn't want to be like I didn't want to be like Joe. I didn't want to embarrass my dad. You know what I mean? Ever.
Yeah,
I didn't want to be an embarrassment. I never want to be an embarrassment.
It must have been a huge relief when he kicked you to LA.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's go back to college. Why did you settle? You went to Columbia, right? Why did you settle in Columbia?
Well, I wanted to be close to home, and I could work. I knew I would have a job, and then I would have school. I could do that. Have a decent apartment, and it was a good. I liked the school a lot.
Did you apply to any other schools, or you knew it was Columbia or bust?
I applied to like University of Illinois and like other places like that, but it was only for like classical music, and I didn't want to do classical music. I want to do pop music. there's only like two or three schools that do there, four maybe.
Yeah, right.
So, and I would actually consider going to Berkeley in Boston, which is a fantastic school. But I've had a couple friends that went there, and they were
You're
like,
too nice for Boston.
Yeah, well, that was the problem. Like they ended up leaving. And that's the thing with Berkeley too. Is like you feel like a failure if you graduate. It's like the opposite of other schools. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of a negative experience for both of them. I can only speak for those two. I don't know. Maybe other people have had positive experiences, but I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
right.
I haven't heard of those. Yeah.
But you met Nina at
I met
Columbia.
Nina. That's right. So that was definitely a benefit of going to Columbia.
How did you guys meet? And then, because you both live in Los Angeles now,
Right.
I want to know how that came to be.
Okay, so it was interesting because we met towards the end of college, and what happened was we had a mutual friend. She was a musician. She played piano. Her name is Emily Barrett. She's amazing. You guys should check her out. Beautiful piano player. And she was like, Joe, and to my other friend Gilby, who used to be my old songwriting partner, she was like, if you guys don't go to my senior showcase, I'll stop being friends with you. And I was like, all right, fine, we got to go, right? And
What a friend.
I know, right?
Like, I kind of want to stop being your friend now. You
Yeah,
just gave me an
right.
ultimatum.
Yeah, I know, right? So I went, and then she asked Nina to sing at it because she does like more classical music. Like
Yeah.
my girlfriend she's a beautiful voice, musical theater. So she was singing a song, and I was like, oh, she's like cute, you know. I saw, and I kept asking. I was like, trying to find her after the show. I guess she like bailed or something like right away. I got stuck talking to my piano teacher. I ended up taking piano lessons at Columbia, which I love because that's what I teach now a lot is piano.
Oh.
So it worked. It ended up being a great thing to learn.
Yeah.
So yeah, he kind of cornered me and he started talking to me, and I was like, oh God, like where's this girl? And so I had to ask Emily later, like, where's this girl Nina? And she's like, oh, I'll give you her Facebook, and like. So I messaged her on Facebook, and I guess she was like, "Oh, he's cute," to like Emily. Like, so we started talking, and
This is like the two nicest people
Yeah, I
with the
know.
nicest meet cute of all time.
I know, right? Meet cute. Yes, that's like the word of the week, actually. Fun
Is
fact.
it?
Yeah, we've been, because we had a friend that had a meet cute recently. It was kind of funny.
Oh wow! Hope
Yeah.
it works out for the friend.
I know.
So you meet Nina. I imagine you take her out to the Greek island.
Yes, take her to Greek Islands.
And you guys start getting a little bit more
Right.
serious.
Right.
At what point did you know you wanted to leave Chicago and go to Los Angeles?
So I actually knew before we met I was going to do that because, and I was a little worried because I told her, I was like, look, I'm probably going to go to Los Angeles at some point. And she's like, okay. And so after a while, like, I didn't know when I was going to go, but she was like, Joe, why don't you just, like, stay here for a year with me? Let's figure things out, like, see where this goes, and then maybe we could talk about, trying. It was, like, kind of a newish relationship, so I was like, all right, like, she's special, so
Yeah, right.
I'll hang out. And so, and I'll save money at my dad's, I work there full time now
Yeah,
at that
right.
point. And then, so I saved up some money,
Lord knows you need to save money
I
to
know,
come
right?
here.
Exactly. And I needed that, so it was good that I did that. And we both decided, like, hey, this makes sense. Like, she's an actress. She could do her acting thing out here. I could do my music thing out here. I know a couple people. It worked out, so it was great.
And then did she move at the same time you did?
She moved, like, maybe, like, a couple months after I did.
And you guys had separate places, right?
Right.
Do you still have separate places?
No. She lives with me now.
Ah.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more serious.
Exactly, right.
So college finishes, your dad kicks you to Los Angeles.
Kicked me up? No.
Yeah. Your dad
In the nicest way, yeah.
showed you the way to Los Angeles.
Shepherd me.
Yeah.
Here's the way.
Yeah. Like when my college told me that I couldn't attend their school anymore, I when they kicked me out, I always say they did it in the most polite manner, though.
Exactly.
And that's what it seems like your dad
Exactly.
did. But so was there any kind of had you been to Los Angeles before?
I did actually. As a time of reference, it was like a week after Nina and I started dating. Ended up going with my buddy Gilby, who I mentioned earlier. And his brothers lived out here, so we kind of stayed with him, and he showed us around. I was like, I love this place, So
It's a hit or miss. People hate it or
Yep.
love it.
I remember for Nina was like, it took her some time to like it here. It took her like around a year.
It's Los Angeles is so it's different in the sense that the way the city is like planned out.
Yeah.
It's you don't feel like you're in a city
Exactly.
at all unless you're in downtown Los Angeles with the skyscrapers. Outside of that, you could be in Lincoln, Nebraska for all
Right.
you know.
Right.
With the exception of the palm trees,
Right.
and then the people are. It's such a smorgasbord of people here, and it's the same way in New York. Like some people, like if you come here and you just walk into the wrong bar, you could
Right.
meet a bunch of nasty people.
Right.
But if you went 2 bars down the street, you could have met your best friend for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Did you have any kind of culture shock coming from Chicago to Los Angeles, or was it kind of everything you expected?
Not for me. I loved it here instantly.
Yeah.
It was like,
Me too.
I was super tired of Chicago, especially with the weather there. It was too
Dude,
much.
everyone that lives in the snow, what are you doing? Unless you're making money
Yeah.
off the snow by snow plowing. Shout out to my dad. If it's for your snow plowing needs, hit up Dan Amaral. But outside of that, it makes there's so
Yeah.
many places like, and this is another thing that gets me going is like people that are against immigration. There's no more room.
Right.
It's like, have you ever been to West Texas, man?
Right.
Like, there's room for
Right.
days, and it doesn't snow. It's great weather.
Yeah.
You can be in Juarez, Mexico by the afternoon if
Yeah.
you want to be. I don't know. People that I really, and I won't ever say that I won't move back to
Right.
that kind of weather because you never know what's going to happen in your life. But I'm going to try as hard as I can not to go back to
Exactly.
that weather
To stay
full
here.
time.
Yep.
So when you got here, did you have a job lined up? Did you have an apartment lined up?
Yeah, I found the apartment, so that was easy. But the job thing, I was like, I saved up, like I said, I saved up some money from restaurant. I'm like, I'm just going to find something I like. I don't want to do the restaurant thing again, which I could easily have done, but I would just stay in Chicago if I did that, right?
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
And so I really wanted to get into teaching because I just wanted to do something music related while I was out here. So that took like, I don't know, a few months, but I did it. And I love it. So
And now you have an EP coming out.
I do.
Actually, by the time everybody hears this, it will be released and
Right.
ready for listening and purchase. When did you decide you wanted to do this EP? Is this your first?
This is my first EP, yeah.
So when did you start writing these songs for? How did that
Yeah.
all come about? How did you get to this point? And it's called
Do You Hear
Do
Me?
You Hear Me? Yeah.
Yes. Do You Hear Me? My stage name is Joe Dante,
Joe Dante.
which is my middle name, Joseph. I'm Joseph Dante Scafidi.
Yeah, he's not some
Yeah,
asshole
yeah.
that just made up a name.
Yeah, exactly.
He
I just use my name, yeah.
yeah. That's funny.
so yeah, Joe Dante.
seems like he should wear sunglasses wherever he goes.
I have him right here. I'll do it.
Yeah, you do. He's now Joe Dante.
Joe Dante, yeah.
Joe Dante in the studio.
Hey everyone, what's up? Yeah.
So yeah, take me through that process. How did you when did you decide that you wanted to make a full EP? When did you
Right.
write the songs? How did you write the songs? And how did you get into the recording of it all?
So I had some songs lined up a long time ago, like even before I moved out here, from a songwriter I worked with in Chicago named Alma, and you should check her out. She's amazing. So we did some, and after living here for a bit, I made another friend named Alex Hobbs, who's really incredible. He actually was on American Idol at one point. He loves
Nice.
songwriting though, and I met him at a party once, and we just clicked. We have a very similar vibe.
Random house party.
It was just like at a bar. It was like
Yeah.
for like a party, someone's birthday. And then we just clicked, and we exchanged like Instagrams, and I heard some of his stuff, he heard some of mine, and we just like, hey, let's just like the original plan was just to do like a duet or something, like just kind of like sing together. But when we did it, he's like, I have an idea for a song if you're interested. And I was like, okay. So we wrote "Do You Hear Me?" That was the first song we wrote together, and it was just like I was just so taken by that. I still have the songs I did with Alma, and they'll actually one of the songs on the album is with Alma, and I'll slowly introduce them into my next album.
Yeah, right.
But I got super attached to the new person I became in LA, right?
What kind of new person was that?
It was
Describe
just like
Joe
music,
Dante.
I guess more relaxed and just kind of because a lot of my music has that very chill, like pop indie soul vibe. So blue-eyed soul maybe, but yeah, I just always had that like before in Chicago was more like neo soul R&B, like very strict, like just very rhythmic and stuff. But now it's just very chill and relaxed and
nice.
Soulful. And I got that with Alex, and we pumped out some songs. Some of them he liked, so he would take, and most of them I liked, so I took. And then,
but it was a collaboration between the both of you.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of fun. And we had a lot of fun doing it because every week we scheduled I think it was Thursday. Every Thursday would go 8 o'clock, 7 p.m., doesn't matter, but I'd go over to his place in Burbank, and we just write songs, and it didn't matter if it hit or not. We just wrote songs, and then if they did, we'd decide who liked it the most.
And how long did you have these writing sessions for? Over a course of months, years?
Yeah, months. Took months, yeah. So then after, because he was like, hey, like, do you have like 5 or 6 songs of these you like? I'm like, yeah. He's like, let's record it then.
Did he have his own studio? Is that where you recorded it?
We recorded we would record like some of the vocals there and like for scratch vocals. But I ended up using a couple musicians. I used 2 sets of producers on this album.
Oh wow!
And the first producers I used, I actually played with the drummer. He was a drummer in a band. We did like a song together once out here, and we became friends. And I was like, hey. He was like, hey, I got a studio now. I have a partner. Like, let's show me your song. And I was like, okay, yeah. So I showed him it, and he came up with this like really cool thing, an idea of it. And I was like, oh yeah, let's work together. So we worked on it, and it ended up sounding really cool. It just has that very,
It seems like you found people trustworthy enough to work with pretty easily.
Yeah. I mean. It's you just have to be open to it, right?
Yeah. Definitely. I was actually having a conversation with my friend Alyssa yesterday. Alyssa Momquist, shout out. And we were talking about, because she's a writer and actor, and I'm a comedian writer, bearded janitor, whatever you want. But we were talking about how it's hard to, when you move to a new city and you don't know anyone, because you really didn't know anyone when you moved here, it's hard to find people you trust with the work that you love.
Right.
It seems like you found these guys pretty easily, which is a huge advantage point, I think.
Super lucky, a lot of that.
Because you could have people that could just be ripping you off.
Sure. And I could tell you Alex is one of the most sweetest, genuine. I feel like he's nicer to me. Like, I know you say I'm nice, but I feel like
be a nicer.
I feel like he is.
The only person nicer than you is Jesus. So I
appreciate it. Thank you.
I can't imagine he is, but
he is very sweet. I trust him 100%. He never wanted money. He just loves to write.
Okay, maybe he is a bit nicer than you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he's like, I'm not doing it for money. Like if you end up like getting success from it, then yeah, throw me a few bucks, whatever it is, but
throw me a 10 spot.
No, I was like, dude, no. It wouldn't be a few bucks, but
yeah.
But he's just the sweetest guy, and he's helped me through this whole process because he's a little more seasoned than I am with this. He's had a few EPs out, and he guided me, and he knew what to say to the producers, and I learned a lot from him.
So let's talk about that, because it was your first EP. What did you expect? Was it everything you expected it to be process-wise? And if not, what were the kind of the things that you learned?
The things I learned was how to communicate better. You know, I guess. Yeah. And one of the things Alex said, he's like, I'm going to tell you something a little like negative about you, right? He's like, just letting you know. I was like, okay, just give it to me. He's like, you're too nice, which is the problem. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Alex.
Because you're too nice. Like, don't be afraid to like tell them what's wrong, because you want it to be you're the one who has to listen to it the most. You're going to listen to it more than anyone.
It's your name on it.
Yeah, it's my name, and it's like my baby. So like, I'm going to care the most. So he's like, don't be afraid to just tell them what's wrong, what to fix, what to do. And if you have an idea, like, don't diminish it. Like, just be proud. Like, have strength in that decision, right?
Yeah, right.
So, and I learned that from him. Like, I'd be a little like, I don't know, like, it's okay. He's like, no. And he'd call him up, like, we got to fix that. You got to fix it, man. Like, he was always on.
He's your muscle.
Right. He was always in my corner throughout that whole, process, and I was very blessed. Like, I feel very lucky to have met him. So.
And now, how long did it take from the beginning of recording the EP until the end? How long was that process?
That took another few months. I think the whole, like, between writing it and recording, that took around a year. Like, yeah, a little over a year.
A little over a year?
Yeah, a little over a year.
And now that it's about to come out?
Yeah.
Are you super happy about it? Are you excited?
I'm super excited, super happy. I don't know, who knows what doors this will open, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I always think about the whole journey of the creative process of all this is I've met a lot of people through it. I met a lot of people that have helped me, some people that have collaborated with me, and who knows what this will do, but like, it's getting me ready for the next step of all this. And I'm just super excited about that next step.
And so so now you've finished this, you're going to release it on the 3rd, and what's after the EP? Like, now you perform all over the city.
Yeah.
And we'll get some show dates or where people might be able to find your show dates later. But are you going to go back into every Thursday night writing sessions, or what do you?
Yes, I want to get back into writing with Alex, maybe with Alma a little, and myself too. Like, I like writing with myself too. Having fun with that. But yeah, trying to be very diligent about that and trying to get some shows in. I'm in a gigging band right now called the Boogie Agenda. So I have I don't know when those will play, but I'm trying to do a release party around the 17th of maybe next month. So I'll keep that posted if you guys follow me on my Instagram or
if you
Facebook.
Don't, you're such a jerk because he's the nicest guy in the world.
That's right. Come to my shows.
Now let's talk about the music itself. What is this music? If you had to put a point on the EP? Do You Hear Me is a big title. That's really saying something. As a listener, as somebody that's being as unbiased as I can be, as a listener, Do You Hear Me seems like you have a point to come across. If there were a couple of them, what would they be, or one or two? You know what I mean?
I think a lot of the album is about not being tied down to your past, right?
Okay.
Not that I had like a horrible past or anything. I had a very, if you were to rewind this podcast, I had a pretty good life. I can't like lie to you guys and say like, oh, it's like I had all these issues and like I overcame them. Yeah. But it's about not being weighed down by the little things in life, right? Not being, and moving forward, trying to get through everything. You can only just keep growing as a person. I have a song on the album called Hiccups for that. It's really interesting. Alex came up to me and he was like, oh, this coworker of mine was like talking to me about her ex-boyfriend. They broke up, obviously. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, and then like months later, I just had a hiccup and I just thought about him again and got upset. And he's like, hiccup? Because you think of a hiccup like you drink, like we're drinking a beer, you might hiccup, right?
Yeah, right.
Or whatever. You never hear of it in the sense of like you're hiccuping into like a problem, right? So
that's a really interesting concept.
It is. It is, because it's unexpected. And these little unexpected things in life, whether they're little things or big things, they might throw you off and make you fall off the bike or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you have to get back on and keep pedaling. And that's kind of like the idea of the album is just getting through like this. What we're doing as artists, you and I, is just, there's bumps. But there's also like nice views and there's nice straightaway. You know what I mean? There's nice little curves too. Maybe the problem's not that bad.
Yeah.
So it's about getting like prevailing in all this, right? In our journey, there's no right path. There might be some people might get to the finish line before you or after you, but you got to enjoy your path through it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of the statement. Do you hear me? It's like, because it's my first EP, here I am. This is what I'm about. And this is what I'm trying to show you guys.
I'm a little bit more excited. I was already very excited for the drop of the EP, but I'm a little bit more excited now.
Thank you.
And that's essentially what this whole podcast is about.
Exactly.
Is that road to where you're going.
Right.
So I'm really glad you came on, man.
Oh, me too.
So what is your plan going forward as far as an artist? What is what's your next big goal? Is it another, is it a full album release? Right. Is it another EP? Is it more gigs? What are you trying to do?
So, yeah, it's a lot of that. Definitely another EP. I don't know if I could do full album yet. I would like to do another EP. I'd like to get a couple, maybe a single. Even little as that. If a full album, I can't say, like I said, I can't say no. Like maybe it does happen, right? Everything's unexpected. Maybe I will make a full album. But yeah, I'd like to get maybe a couple singles, maybe another EP out. And yeah, I would like to, because I did a lot for these first couple of years in LA, doing shows where I did covers, and maybe I'd introduce a few songs of mine, getting, kind of like wetting my beak with that, right?
Yeah.
Can be like, all right, I'm going to perform and get those muscles going, and then I'll introduce some of my stuff to people. Maybe they'll follow me or whatever. But now I'm really going to start. I think my goal is just do a lot of original stuff. Like when I'm doing Joe Dante.
Yeah.
Original stuff. When I'm doing Boogie Agenda, I'll do covers, right? Yeah. And I'll do that with them, right? And I love that group. You guys should follow.
Boogie Agenda seems like a sweet wedding band.
Oh, it is, yeah. Yeah, and it's super cool. Everyone's I'm like the only American in the group, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I got a German. Well, there's a couple Americans. I can't say that. One of them's from LA too, in Hawaii. But
weird.
Yeah. But yeah, Germany. We got people from China. It's really cool.
How many people are in this?
Off the top of my head,
you have to think off the top of your head.
There's 9 or 8 people, I think. In the
group.
Wow.
Yeah,
we have a horn section, rhythm section, guitar.
That's a whole thing, man.
Oh yeah, it's super cool. Yeah. So.
Oh God, if you need a band, get on Boogie Agenda.
Yeah, exactly.
That seems great. I don't know why, but I'm imagining you all in red tuxedos.
It's black tuxedo. No, but it's like a black suit. Yeah, all black and white.
Well, that's great, man.
Yeah.
And then people can follow you at Joseph Dante on Instagram.
Here Dante.
Here Dante. That's what it is.
Yes,
Here Dante.
Here Dante.
Here as in HEAR.
Yes.
DANTE. Not like we're here, but I hear you.
Like hearing, yep.
Do you got any shows coming up? Anywhere we can see Boogie Agenda or Joe Dante himself?
I don't know about Boogie Agenda, but I'm trying to aim for next month around the 17th, so I'll keep that posted. I haven't confirmed the location yet, but I think it's... I don't want to say it because it's 80%. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen, but if anything changes, then I'll put it in different location.
We'll keep you suspended, guys.
Exactly.
In suspense, anyways. And I got to tell you, these mango IPAs really did the trick.
I think so too. I think
that's exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
What are you doing tonight? You want to hang out? What's going on?
Let's hang out. Let's do it. I'm down.
So now we're wrapping it up here. If you had advice for any young musician out there trying to make their way, trying to figure out if they, should commit, if they should make their own EP, whatever they should do, what would your advice be to a young musician today?
Just be present. Don't think about the past. Don't think of where you're at. Don't think of where you're going. Just be present and be yourself. And if you're into it, give it 100%, right? If you're into it, don't think of anything else you want to be doing. Enjoy what you're doing. Have fun with it. And, practice makes perfect, I guess.
Yeah. No, practice does make perfect.
Yeah, and find your own voice. Whether and I don't even say that like literally as a singer. Like even if you're a guitarist or drummer or whatever you're doing, just find your own, make you, right? Don't, like learn the rules, but then instantly break them after. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's
I
another
really
rule of
like
advice.
that advice.
Exactly.
I'm going to give that to my kids someday.
Yes.
Learn the rules and then immediately break them.
Exactly.
I think that's a really good piece of advice, whether you're a musician or whether you're an architect.
Right.
Finding your thing. Finding what makes you stand out, because as humans, we are all the same, but inherently we are all different.
Yeah.
That being said, you have to find what makes you stand out. Joe Dante stands out in a high-pitched pop type voice, or with Boogie Agenda. I stand out with a beard that looks like it's made out of asphalt, and I'll tell some jokes on stage. I do agree with you. I think that's a really good piece of advice, because I think today when you look at social media anyways, and you look at the people with the most followers, because that's a disgusting way of showing your success.
Yeah.
But when you do that, they're almost all the same, whether they're Instagram models or they're a DJ or whatever they are. They all sound the same. They all have the same message. I think it's very important for us to be individuals, especially in a time where everybody is a sheep. That was really good advice, man.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed having you on, Joe.
Me too. I love being on.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Nobody ever has me on their podcast. So.
Yeah. Well, I knew we would get along because, you know how earlier you said people compare you to your father?
Yeah.
People compare me to Steve. So of course we're going to get along.
I just want to say one thing, is that when Steve, Nina, Joe's girlfriend's dad, and my dad hang out on, I believe, at least one, if not multiple occasions, people have thought they were a couple. And apparently Steve goes along with it or doesn't even notice that it's happening. And my dad just gets all tomato-faced, like very red-faced. And, I just think it's a great dynamic. And I hope no one ever thinks we're a couple. If you do, I won't be offended, because Joe's a good-looking guy. And I'm really punching above my weight there. But I think that's I'm really glad that life worked out the way it did, where you dated Nina and Nina brought you to me. Not that the world brought you to Nina, but Nina brought you to me. And we'll have to have Nina on too, because she has a great story, and she can tell a lot of stories about Steve.
You can have Steve on too.
Next time Steve's in town. One time he was in town and he was like, "I'm up in Malibu. Are you coming by?" And I was like, "No." Like, that's a far drive. But yeah, man. So it was great having you on. Follow Joe at Hear Dante, HearDante. I'll put it in the bio. Yes. Thanks for listening, guys. Joe, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
And be sure to check out, where can they find your EP?
You can find on Spotify, Apple Music. There's various other ones. I think maybe Pandora. I'm not sure. But
I'll put a couple links to where you guys can find Do You Hear Me? And be sure to take a listen. Joe's a really good singer. And follow his Instagram for his next show dates and everything upcoming. Yes. So we'll talk to you later, guys. Thanks for listening.